Hello, Dream Team, and away we go once again. Welcome to another episode of The Good, the Bad and the Rugby in partnership with City Index, the leading provider of spread betting, CFD and FX trading. Tins, would you believe? What have we done? 3 shows?
Yeah.
He's gone for a holiday. He's good at holidaying. So it's just Haskell and I again. But not like we haven't seen each other for a while.
No. The cornerstone of this whole pod, I'd say.
Yeah, exactly. We had a good day on Saturday.
We had a fantastic day on Saturday at Westbury RFC in conjunction with Vodafone for their Lions Legacy Tour.
You're getting good at this.
I am
Ding,
actually. I've got a good person to learn from, really. They're one of the best in the business, one of the most polished. It was amazing, actually. Great to go down. We're obviously, as part of Vodafone's Lions Legacy Tour, we're going to visit some grassroots clubs. The whole idea was to kind of make them more sustainable, to help them survive post-pandemic. And do you know what? We had the time of life. We played walking rugby. You did a seminar on business. I did a seminar on social media. We did a live show. Jason Robinson turned up.
How good
Emily
was he?
Scarrett was turned up. Jason Robinson was fantastic. So many legends of the club. A lot of kind of characters and fun. I honestly had an amazing day, and I had my own green room. So when the public got a little bit too much, I phased myself out.
Just behind the velvet rope. It was a very good day, actually. And lucky for me, actually, I went home. My parents are about half an hour from Westbury. So I went and saw them on the Friday, went to the club on the Saturday. I think we had 500-600 people there. We watched the women play, watched the men play. We dabbled in a bit of walking rugby, which is just about your level nowadays with a new back.
It was good fun, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was quite good fun.
The referee, we had the most corrupt referee, Mr. Lamb.
Mr. Lamb.
Yeah.
Slamming the lamb.
Awful bloke he was, stitching me up. Glasses thicker than bottom of jam jars. I still couldn't see what was going on.
You got yellow carded from the walking rugby, which was a little bit embarrassing. England's
England's
most carded player still getting sent to the sidelines
He got me in a
playing walking
headlock
rugby.
as well, which I could not stop laughing.
No, it was a lot of fun. We actually, I think, hopefully, we'll run the numbers, but hopefully there's a big chunk of change that's gone into Westbury, which they can use to sort of get themselves going. Lots of clubs coming out of the dusty last 18 months or so. So hopefully that's helped them. We've left them with some cool new Canterbury kit. We've obviously put Vodafone in touch. We're going to help them doing some a bit of strategic stuff around the club as well. We've put in some very new cool kit, which is going to help them film their training and their games as well. That's a VEO camera, so that's quite helpful, hopefully. There were 1 or 2. You know Caleb in Clarkson's Farm?
Yes.
There are some characters not too dissimilar to Caleb at Westbury who, I mean, VEO will help them enormously with their training, but actually what we need is a couple of GoPros as well so that they can unlock Terry, who played walking rugby, had Davy Crockett on his head.
Well, I'll be honest with you,
raccoon.
the beauty about the video cameras...
Foggy was a legend.
Yeah, that's the best thing about grassroots clubs, is that we would not be the characters we are today if it wasn't for our experiences at club rugby and it you know, combining all the kind of different demographics, colours, creeds, you know, genders, whatever it is, all in one place was amazing. And I think just interesting to talk about those cameras. The reason they're perfect for the grassroots clubs is they basically sit on the side and they have no requirement for any technical know-how.
So no one can get it wrong.
No one can get it wrong. They sit, they scan, they record the game from side to side, which kind of means that now grassroots clubs can unlock the potential, and you can put clips up and try of the week and get some of these characters and legends out there. So VEO with their cameras.
Do you think VEO is? Do you think it's wide enough to get all of Cowhead's head in?
No
there was a tight head prop called Cowhead who was skipper of Westbury RFC, large Swede.
There was also a guy called Foggy who was on my team, and the referee kept blowing him for offside, which was a bit difficult because his darb was always offside. He could still be back in the change room, and his stomach was over the halfway line, so not good. One
of the greats. Foggy is one of the greats. And actually, we're going to put a bit of content out from what was a really good day at the Grassroots. It was a lot of fun. We've got 3 more to go on the Vodafone Lions Legacy Tour. So we'll just keep everyone posted as we go with that. It was a lot of fun, and hopefully lots more to come as well in Ireland, Wales and Scotland. I tell you what, let's go from the Grassroots to, I was going to say global. We're not quite global, but we are going UK and Ireland tour. The Good, the Bad and the Rugby is being boxed up, popped onto the back of a lorry. We've got 16 dates.
I was going to say, yeah, from the grassroots to treading the boards.
Oh, I see what you've done there.
Yeah, or grassroots to the velvet seats.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of our listeners won't be able to afford the velvet seats, but some of you can have a go.
I'm not entirely sure that works on either level, but I like where we're trying to go with it. We're going on tour next spring. And I can only say it like this. You know, when someone comes to you with an idea and they go, do you want to go on tour? And you're like, yeah, sounds really good. Thinking, that'll never happen. And then they come back and they go, oh, well, why don't you take a few photos and we'll see if we can launch a tour. And you're like, yeah, sure, we'll have some photos taken. And now suddenly it's out there. We're going away for 16 dates, end of April, all of May, and beginning of June. We are heading across the UK and Ireland to Sheffield, Liverpool, Edinburgh, Cardiff, Newcastle, Manchester, Dublin, Nottingham, Plymouth, Swansea, Oxford, London, Birmingham, Bath, and Southend. I reckon I've been to about 3 of those places, so we're breaking new barriers.
I've seen a lot of them on Channel 4 documentaries.
Well, we're going to put our own little stamp on those places. So if you're in those areas and you fancy coming along to a Good, the Bad and the Rugby live tour event, details, James.
Well, the details are very simple. To get your tickets, if you haven't already, sign up for our GBR pre-sale through our socials before 5 p.m. today. That's the 27th of October, because you'll be able to get your tickets right now. And if you miss that, because we all live busy lives, tickets go on general sale this Friday, the 29th. And all the info is on our website. So make sure you check that out, goodbadrugby.com. And I cannot tell you how good this tour is going to be. And exactly what Alex says. I mean, we're going to have to organise this shambles. And we have to stop tins dropping the C-bomb in the first 30 seconds.
We're going to have some house rules.
Yeah.
Because we have done a few of these. In fact, Westbury RFC, towards the end of the day on Saturday, we were definitely, there's a line. There's a line about 85%, isn't it? Anything on the right side is acceptable. If you start going over, everyone's a bit like, ooh, I think we're about 110% on Saturday night. We'll have some house rules, and then you can tread the boards, you can pop your toe over and come back again, but we're not out of control and going to be in the Daily Mail sidebar of shame.
No, we will
daily
100% be on the Daily Mail for doing something. And the lovely lady, Adriana, who listens from Hello to pick up any tidbits.
Angela.
Angela, I know, you always get it wrong. It's not Angela. Okay. She'll be there in attendance.
She's coming to all 16 days. She's got her tickets already.
Yeah.
That's Hello sorted for the month of April. We will have a lot of fun. And if you fancy coming along for unscripted, unscripted, directionless, rudderless nonsense. That is going to be the challenge that we're going to be taking on. Come and have fun. So we've gone from Grassroots, we've gone to UK and Ireland, and this week we are both genuinely excited because I think it's fair to say we have got one of the game's global superstars. I'm going to introduce him. I mean, his CV is extraordinary. He was the greatest NRL prospect of his generation. He won the NRL. He was a Super Rugby winner, a double World Cup winner. He's now the boxing heavyweight of New Zealand. He's an Olympian, a proud family man, and a devout Muslim. And in 2015, he made the front page news up here, giving his winner's medal away from Rugby World Cup 2015 to a young fan who ran on the field. And in the process of the excitement that followed that act, he was then tipped as the next James Bond. He was and is a proper golden boy. He is one of the game's great entertainers, but it hasn't always been that way. At one point, he found himself $1 million in debt. There have been doubters and naysayers along his path. There have been subpoenas and lawsuits. And at the point when perhaps everything seemed it was at its most perfect, in fact, it was anything but. The bit that leaps out of the book bio that he is bringing out, so he's got a book coming out, but there's obviously a page that it describes what's in it, was the line, the league culture was train hard, play hard, and then party hard. Alcohol, drugs, and women. It was a very slippery slope for a naive teen looking to find his place. It is, ladies and gentlemen, none other than the great Sonny Bill Williams. Come on in. Have we got that about right? Is there anything in that bio that we've missed out at this point?
What an introduction. It kind of sounds like a movie script, doesn't it?
It's unbelievable. When you hear that now, is that you? I mean, do you see yourself on that journey at every point? Or does a lot of that feel a different person in a different lifetime?
Firstly, Alex and Hass, great to be here. I appreciate you guys having me on here. Massive buzz. I've always loved my time in Europe, so it's a pleasure to be here. And secondly, yes, no, I should say, not in my wildest dreams did I ever imagine, firstly, writing a book, having the career that I've had. It's been a journey, one that's been very blessed for what it's brought me off the field, I should say. So, really looking forward to this talk, lads.
Good on you. Why a book? Why have you decided to sit down and put it to paper?
Over the last 10 years, I've been asked on numerous occasions to write a book. And it just didn't really feel like, should I write a book? No, it wasn't really in the forefront of my mind. As Hass can attest to, when you're in the game, which is professional sports, rugby league, it's all encompassing. So book was the last thing on my mind. But now, having a bit of time, now that I'll hang up the boots, I really felt like it was the time for me to just give my journey, and not I've never been a hoarder of my I guess probably, I hate the word wisdom, but that's come from the many mistakes that I've had in my path in my life. And for me, although my, I guess, self-esteem issues always, at the back of my mind saying you shouldn't write a book, you don't deserve to write a book, who's going to read your book? But then I put the vulnerability hat on and I say, look, if there's a couple of young women, men, a couple of young, guys like myself that read the book, that get some good out of the book, then the book will be a success.
How hard was it? I know a little bit, obviously, I know your kind of persona, to actually put those stories down, because I, as you said, the self-esteem stuff's a big one for you. When you look at someone like yourself and you look at your career, right, and all the things you've done, and the fact you're really good looking, which is really, really, really annoying. Right, really annoying. When I said to my wife that I was talking to Sonny Bill, she went a bit funny. She said, "Can I come along and speak to him?" I was like, "No, babe, you can't." So you've got all that going on, but I know with like the Kiwi culture, particularly, is stay humble, bro, stay humble. How hard was it for you to really actually sit down and start talking yourself up and go, "Look, I've done this, I've done this." Was it a bigger battle as I imagine?
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there, bro. But I think, for me, throughout this whole process, throughout this whole journey, I wanted to empower, my people as much as I could. Māori, Pacific Islanders as much as I could, and Alan Duff, who wrote the Once Were Warriors. I was so blessed to have him come on board, and he picked up on that straight away. So if you read the book, you'll see that I've got my mother talks, my brother talks, my sisters, my wife, and some of the boys, people that have made an impact on me throughout the sporting career, throughout the sporting journey. So I think that's that out. But it was such a therapeutic journey, bro. Like this whole book, man. Like I remember, because we had to do it over Zoom, and Alan would say, look, we're going to talk about this in a couple of days. So, for example, he said, I need some traumatic experiences, if there's any, from your childhood. Have a couple of days to think about it. And I was sitting in bed and I said to my wife, man, I can't think of anything. She said, what about your burns on your legs? And I said, wow. I blocked that. I must have pushed that right to the back of this subconsciously just pushed it right down because it was so traumatic. And then I understood that was part of the reason why, I had massive self-esteem issues growing up. I had scars at the back of my legs. I remember going to school when I was 10, 11 and walking down the hallway and girls stopping and looking at my legs, being called Kentucky Fried Chicken legs.
But how did you get those? How did those scars occur?
So when I was 4, I used to go to a babysitting house for an hour, or babysitters for an hour after school until mom would come pick me up from work, or dad. Anyway, the teenage daughters were home. They were cooking hot chips in oil, caught on fire. They threw it out the back. It went all over my legs. Lucky the next door neighbors were hosing down their car, washing their car. They jumped over, my legs all on fire. Long story short, I'm in the hospital for 8 months, for whatever degree burns. I had to learn to walk again. This was a 4-year-old kid, and my mom talks in the book, and she says that imagine being a father, being a parent, watching your kid crawling to you, and I'm crawling, a 4-year-old looking up at mom saying, pick me up. But the doctor's holding her back, my dad holding her back, saying he needs to learn to walk because if the scars don't stretch, he won't be able to walk. They'll have to cut his leg off. So it was a pretty traumatic experience. But things like that, there was little things like that throughout this whole process that was so, I guess, empowering in the sense because I always say the one that the better person makes the better sportsman because they understand themselves more. And this whole process just helped me understand myself a little bit more.
Tell me more about you as a kid. What kind of a child were you? Were you, I mean, obviously huge setbacks and huge challenges, but at what point did sport become something for you?
Well, I think it kind of just fell in my lap. I was obviously had God-given athletic ability. But for myself, the struggle where I came from, we grew up in a housing commission household, low decile area. We had no wallpaper in the walls. Mom and dad slept in the lounge room. So that struggle naturally gives you strengths in a way to strive to succeed if you use it in a good way. So I had that, but then also the God-given sporting ability that I had. I understood from a young age that for me, success was either sport or nothing, and that's what I thought. Because growing up where I grew up, mom, dad, low income jobs, all my aunties, uncles, pop, nan, no one. I never saw anyone, close friends, their family members, anyone in a position of power, position of influence. But when I watch TV, watch rugby league, watch rugby, I've seen some brown faces on the tally. Man, actually, I'm good at this sport. I'm good at this thing called sport. I want to buy mom a house with wallpaper on it. And funny enough, that simplistic, I guess, that simplistic line, that simplistic sentence stuck in my head, and it drove me to the heights. It drove me to reach the heights on the sporting field at such a young age because I wanted to buy mom that house with wallpaper. So, but looking back at this whole journey, writing this book, it was pretty cool understanding myself a bit better from that scene.
Obviously, you said that you saw sport as a window to get out of this kind of situation you were in, and that it drove you forward. But as a young person, it's not always as simple as that, isn't it? When you're talking about kind of a story and saying, "Oh, this is what inspired me," but we have many kind of ups and downs, and part of your book is very much telling those stories. I mean, were there moments where you just nearly gave in to this and were like, do you know what? I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to do it. Because I know when you reflect, we all say we did that. But there's moments throughout my career, and obviously I've only had half the career you've had, in terms of, thinking about giving up. Did you, how close were you to you losing your way? We talk about some of the alcohol and drug stuff later on, but, in those early days, how hard was it to commit to try to change your life?
That's cool. Brother, I know that off air you won't be saying you've had half the career I've had. You're probably saying you've had twice the career I've had.
No, well,
listen,
I've
I've definitely had half the cash you've had. I know that for a fact. But
I think for me it was important that I say this story because I broke it down. For me, when I speak about coaches, when I speak about professional environments and people that I've kind of connected with, and the way that I've played the game, I play the best footy, or I connect with the coaches that simplify things. When it comes to the game of rugby league, it's a really simple game, but I feel like with the 42 trainers that we have, 22 support coaches, I think we overcomplicate the game so much sometimes. And I think just in life, for me, that was one of the reasons why, for me, this book was important, because that was my message. My message is, I had a dream. Like, I broke it right down simplistically in layman's terms: buy mama house with wallpaper. But what enabled me to reach that goal was the discipline, the daily discipline that drove me to reach that heights. Now, my message is that my message isn't everyone can play professional rugby or play for the All Blacks or do this or do that. My message is, if you have a dream and you have the daily discipline, it gives yourself a chance to be great at whatever you want to do, whatever you want to be.
What was that discipline? Sorry, Sonny, to interrupt. What was that discipline? Like an example of it. So when you were a young kid, was it you spent hours outside passing against the wall? Was it you, walking yourself to training? Was it because, to become a world-class kind of rugby league player, what was it you were doing that was like different from other kids?
I put a picture in the book. There'll probably be, when you write a book, Haskell, have you written a book, brother?
I have, bro. Yeah. It was a Sunday Times bestseller. Don't worry.
There would have been. Oh, I gotta get one. Sorry, brother. There would have been heaps of pictures of you with your shirt off, yeah. But I put one picture in, and I tossed and turned with it. But it was a 14-year-old picture of me with my shirt off. You see that?
I'm looking for it now. Actually, I'm very excited.
We'll stick it all over our socials.
Yeah, we'll put it in as the thing.
That'll boost our ratings.
I'm trying to find it now. Oh, yeah, wow. This one here. Absolute Rig City.
Flipping
Bloody hell. No wonder.
You're 14 in
14?
14.
Right.
So my point is this. My point is the psychotic mindset I had was I didn't know what I was doing, Haskell, like for a lot of my life. When it came to, okay, this is how you need to reach, I guess, professional sports. This is how you need this is what you need to do to play NRL in Australia at the highest level. What I did know was, you know, okay, I'm gonna do press ups every day. I would watch something on TV, and you know, I was just freestyling, but the drive was there every day. You know, I remember, for example, going to Australia I never really traveled before. I maybe went overseas once as a kid, but I went to a whole new country when I was 15. I went away from everything I knew to try and succeed. I went away from, you know, barely going to school, training twice a week, playing touch when we're trained, to going over to Australia, working full-time, training full-time. I dropped out of school and started working full-time because I thought this is the fastest way to get to my dream of playing NRL and buying mum that house with wallpaper, you know? And that psychotic drive allowed me to reach the pinnacle at such a young age, but it didn't allow me to thrive off the field. And I delve into that in the book where, yes, I was thriving on the field, playing some of the greatest footy playing some great footy, world-class footy, all of that stuff, but I wasn't equipped to stick to my moral compass that my mom, you know, had given me growing up.
One of the really interesting... Hello to your kids. How old are the kids? And there's obviously a bath time battle going on in the background, which I love.
I've got 4, Alex, 6, 4, 3, and 1. So
wow,
you're going to be hearing that noise all night.
They are very welcome. They're welcome anytime. One of the things that's amazing and I think really stark about your career is that there are so many sportsmen, and I'm going to say sportsmen in particular, whose career is all about glory on the field, and then it falls apart once they hit retirement. And their explosion comes at the end. They lose their way a little bit. But one of the extraordinary things about your career is that in retirement and watching you on social media, you seem more contented now than at any point. And your explosion came at the beginning of your career. That's when you found that the struggle the hardest type thing. You've touched a little bit on your journey and why you were motivated to do it. But can we explore in a bit more detail you as a young superstar sensation in the making and how that was as a journey to go through? What was it about your early years that made you perhaps lose your way a little bit?
Coming from where I come from, Alex, you know, in my household, I've seen in many interviews that my household, dad, mom, it was all about surviving. It was all about paying next week's rent. So, you know, I never really had that chance to sit right down with dad and dad say to me, look, if you make it in sport or if you make it in a professional environment, high performance space, these are the pitfalls, or this is what you need to do, or this is what you should try and do and be careful of. And, you know, because no one had ever made it in my family and no one ever knew had made it, even in a high paying job. So I was never equipped to deal with a high performance space, you know. And I think for me, I know now, I guess true strength is one that sticks to their own moral compass instead of following the leader. But I didn't have that. I just didn't have that strength at that time. For me, it was, okay, I'm playing, you know, I was 18. I had won a competition. I was voted in the top 13 best players in the world. I went from I think it was a 50 grand contract up to just a little bit more. Haskell, stop laughing. Contract, you know, all of a sudden, you know, in meetings, I would never talk. I would be quiet, you know, because that was my role. I'd go out there and I'd play some terrific footy, but I wasn't asked to speak or step out of my comfort zone. But the motto back in the early 2000s was train hard, play hard, party hard. And for me, it was like, well, everyone else is doing it. This is how it's done. This is what I'm going to do. This is the life, you know. And at that time, for a young, shy, naive 18-year-old man to be relatively unknown in public, to all of a sudden be going out with the boys and have the athlete privileges that gets thrown on you in the bubble, which is Sydney. Oh, Sonny, come at the front, the opposite sex. Oh, hey, Sonny, that type of stuff. It slowly hits at your ego, slowly works you up to something that you're not, and I made some really selfish decisions. Yes, I didn't know what I was doing. I was naive, but I was just going with the flow and I wasn't saying no. And I got to a real point where, although I was playing some great footy, and that's why I say today, we look at these young sportsmen, the young people, we look at them and we think, oh, they've got it all worked out because they're doing amazing things. But some of them don't, because I know I've done that same walk, I was playing amazing footy, but off the field, through my choices, I feel like my soul wasn't happy. I would wake up in the morning and I'd almost be depressed. Like I didn't know what mental health was. I didn't even know what that word was, So I was struggling, really, really struggling at that time. And yes, like you said, I went through my explosion in that early 18, 19, 20, 21, 22-year-old years. But it was a young man that had everything thrown at him. He was the picture of success, but it was a young man that was trying to find himself, and that's what I was doing. And it was played out in front of everyone's eyes. And I got to a point when I took off from the Bulldogs where I just had enough, bro. I was like, okay, I'm arguing with the club, this and that, all of these little things. But I need to get away, because if I stay here, something terrible might happen, and I will be my own demise. And I found, and I delve into it in the book, that I found that I ran, but my struggles were right there with me. They came with me, looking back at me in the mirror.
How bad did it get in those times? How bad was it?
You just have to look what happened. Me taking off to France, breaking a contract, thinking that, I was only 23 at the time. It actually takes some craziness to do something like that, And now when I think about mental health and I think about the struggles that drives and what that space, being in that space, what it does to certain people, I truly was in that space where it was all encompassing. And for me, I was so self-centered that time, where it's like, me, why is this happening to me? I'm actually a good person. All I want to be is, I just want to live my life. You know what I'm trying to say? And it just got to that point where I was like, well, he said what? Or she did this, or, well, okay, I'm going, But now, being the man that I am, having all of those experiences that I've had, I wish I was man enough, confident enough in myself to be like, look, go to the club and say, look, I'm not happy. I need to look after myself mentally. I need to start making better decisions. But that first decision is moving away from this space, because it's pretty toxic for my well-being, or just having that conversation. But I just wasn't confident in myself to sit there and do that,
It's a very interesting choice for you to swap Sydney for Toulon, for one of the craziest owners in the history of the world. I like what you thought you were going to do, but what was that like? Because I imagine it was going from the frying pan into the fire a little bit, or was it what you wanted it to be?
Haskell, I never planned on playing rugby. I actually, there was a club in rugby league that were keen on my services in Super League, and they reached out through the whole process. And I got to a point, I remember speaking to my manager, and I just got to a point where I was like, man, I can't do this. I've got to go. Talk to the club, and I won't name their name, but said, tell them if they want to take me, I'm coming. I'll jump on a plane and come tomorrow or the next week. They came back and they said, no, we can't. We don't want to deal with the legal fees and what will come of it. So within that week, a man by the name of Tana Umanga, I think you guys know who that is.
We know the Tana, yeah.
He calls me, and I remember, not calls me, he called my manager. My manager rigs me a few days later, in a way. And he says, oh, do you know a guy called Tana Umanga? I said, who? Tana, yeah, I know him. He's, Samoan sporting royalty type of thing. He said, oh, he's in Toulon. Well, then I said to him, well, ask, if you'll take me over, and the rest is history. I jumped on the plane and took off to France. So, but it was never a thought of, oh my God, because I didn't know anything about rugby, Haskell. I didn't grow up playing rugby. I was a rugby league man. So for me, yes, it was a tough thing going over there, taking off from a contract, all of that, that whole journey. But it was such a blessing those 2 years in France for what it brought me, twofold, for what it brought me on the field and more so off it as well. It was such a blessed time of my life, going to Europe. No one knew who I was. The ego naturally gets punched in the face, and you get reminded, hey, you're just a little blip in this thing that we call life, But then also, the biggest blessing was coming under the rugby tutelage of the great man himself, Johnny Wilkinson. And Tana Umanga. I can honestly say I learned rugby from the best, And for me, with the self-esteem issues that I had, I'm going into a new game. I'm trying to thrive in this game, and a guy called Johnny Wilkinson actually has the time for me and talks to me like I'm actually a great in this game. He's asking me on the field, what do you see, Sonny? We need you with the ball in your hand, Sonny. It was such a blessed time on the field, and then off it, I really got to understand myself a lot more. I found my faith. I met a beautiful family in France, in Toulon. I spent majority of my time. I had a flash house like you had, probably over in France, Haskell. But I spent majority of my time in this Tunisian family's house. They lived in the projects, in the slums, but it was just a beautiful time. And I left France going back to New Zealand a more confident, empowered man, just from making better decisions, but just having a bit of life experience under my belt.
I actually played Sonny when he played for Toulon. And I wasn't, I didn't know a lot about league. And I remember doing kind of the analysis pre-game, and they went, oh, they've got Sonny Bill Williams playing for them. He's like, you need to look at some of the line out moves because they're going to use him a lot. And I was like, oh, okay, I don't really know who he is. I'm sure he'll be fine. And I typed him into like YouTube, and there was him like highlight reels and like bam, like taking people's heads off, right? With like shoulders, like when he played for the Bulldogs, like man mountain. And I never forget, it was like a rainy like Saturday or Friday night in Paris, Toulon versus Stade Francais. And I remember setting up to get the ball off 10. And I remember seeing Sonny in front of me, and I was like, okay, there he is. Like I'll just try and run a line inside him. And he disappeared out of my view, and like he'd done it on purpose. And I was like, oh God, right? He's gonna, I know what he does. He's disappeared, so I think there's a hole. I'm gonna run. He's gonna come out of nowhere. Honestly, if the 10 was there, I ran the tightest line away from him because it was terrible. I'd never had that. Like in Union, a lot of players, like they stay where they are, they talk. He just went out there, and I knew if I'd run straight, he was going to be like, woohoo, welcome to, so it's terrifying.
It's like when a shark disappears before it attacks.
And honestly, of all the players I've ever played against, defensively, I've never thought, like when you carry, you think no problem. But because he wasn't there and I knew exactly what he was going to do, basically my 10, I was like, rub shoulders with him just to get away from him. It was horrific.
Unbelievable. Sonny, I want to talk about the you that came back from Toulon in just a moment too. I've got two questions just on, I suppose, on the chaotic years. The first of which, there aren't many similarities in between your career and Haskell's. I think you had total number of offloads in a career that Sonny would pull out in a half. Yeah. But the one thing you do have in common is a penchant for lawsuits, particularly in the early years. Just tell me a little bit about what it was like for you to carry a $1 million tag on your head type thing, given what you were saying earlier about the need and the responsibility to provide for your family. How on earth did you get through a phase of your life like that?
Well, it's just another thing of, Alex, about this whole book, how therapeutic it was, because, I really got to understand my mom even a lot more than what I already knew of her, and her, I guess, activist heart streak in her, where if she feels like she's doing the right thing, she's doing it. You know what I mean? And for me, the narrative out there was, oh, this young guy, he's money hungry, this and that, and he doesn't give a crap about anyone. And, at that time, if I looked at that time from the outside looking in, I would probably think, who does this little D-head think he is? You know what I mean? Excuse my language. But for me, it was never, it was just about trying to do what was right And at that time, I was struggling, and I thought this was the right thing to do. I got there, and I ended up in $1 million debt. You know what I mean? But it was just how it was. You know, I was young. I didn't feel like, I didn't think about the consequences. If that's what I wanted to do at that time, that's what I was gonna do, and it was, I guess, at that time, the magnitude of it, looking back at it now, I'm thinking, wow, would have I done that if I would have known I'd been in that debt? But, with hardship comes ease. And through those hardships, a lot of blessings came into place. I ended up getting into the boxing ring through necessity because, my good mate, Anthony Mundine, who paid off some of that debt, who loaned me some of that debt, I ended up paying it. I had to pay off some of it through boxing, getting into the ring. And, one of the biggest blessings in my life has been the boxing, because now, yes, at the start it was through necessity, but it's lit a fire in me that I haven't been able to put out, and I really love the getting into the square office. But I guess what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is that at that stage, I was just trying to do what I thought was right, and the consequences, I just thought about them after. You know what I mean? And I think when you're in that headspace, when you're struggling with the mental things that I was struggling with at that time, you don't really think about anything else, because it's all about you. And through that whole process, that whole journey, I learned that instead of chasing those manufactured highs that I got from drugs and alcohol and womanizing, I started getting them from making better decisions, being a better person, being a better human, and the empowerment that it gave me. I still strive for that now. But yeah, it was a crazy time to think that I was in $1 million debt, but yeah, we're here today.
Certainly are. It's fine. We'll take that as inspiration, won't we? The other thing I wanted to ask you, you mentioned, and there are so many sports stories, as a sportsman, particularly high profile, you get patted on the back for drinking hard, and you get patted on the back, for notches on the bedpost. But the one thing that everyone walks away from and holds their hands up and goes, whoa, too far, is the drugs. And it's very brave of you to include that in the book. It's very easy to leave that kind of thing out. How bad was it, I suppose, is the question. Was it just a little recreational that came here and there, or did you find yourself going looking for things that you shouldn't have been at the wrong times of day?
I didn't touch alcohol or drugs until I played professional sports, believe it or not. So it was all on, for me, it was all or nothing. I've always had that mindset, and now I take that mindset into how I am as a man. It's all or nothing. I strive to be better daily, that type of stuff. So at that time, those few years when I was delving into the party scene, it was all or nothing. And it wasn't really, I didn't really think, okay, I'm in, they say, oh, you're in season or you're out of season. If I was going to party, I was partying, and, with a lot of those decisions, they'll very selfish decisions. But the thing that I would struggle with was chasing these manufactured highs. You wake up in the morning, and I think, man, not only do I have a hangover, I feel disgusted in myself, and for me, that was the tough part. So, alhamdulillah, I got to that place where I understood that, man, it's touch and go here. If I keep going down this path, I could spiral even more out of control. I had some really, really bad mishaps with getting into trouble, but with mixing with the wrong crowd, and it could have gone wrong.
When you say it could have gone wrong, what would that fear have been?
Well, I delve into it in the book, where, for example, when I was partying. I think I talk about it in the book where we started on the Friday. It's the Sunday. I've got to get home because I've got an operation. Get to the operation. It's a stock standard. I think it was clean out of my knee or my arm or something. You're supposed to wake up after half an hour or 45 minutes. 10 hours or 8 hours, I think I wake up. I wake up and my girlfriend at the time's crying. The doctors are standing around the bed saying, mate, got all these drugs in your system, you could have died, you know. But at that time of my life, the easy decision was just to party, was just to chase those highs, because you know because you're trying to cover up, or you know, give the I guess for me those self-esteem issues, or those the self-esteem issues, or where you're not feeling wholesome enough, or you're whole enough. You're only whole enough if you play a certain way, or if you're the man, or you know, you. For me, I would chase those highs to cover that, to mask that, you know, and that was the plaster that I would put over those sores. And it wasn't until I found my faith where I really found that medicine for the struggles that I really had, you know. But at that time, it was a mix. I was living life just like I was a picture of society, you know. I was young, looked like I had it all, but I had a lot of struggles. So
I know we were going to come on to kind of you know, your faith and stuff. I'm very interested because the way you speak, Sonny, you're always very articulate. I know that I want to touch on this a little bit later, you know, being quite shy and quite humble, but obviously, you know, you have the ability to be very, you know, very articulate and kind of obviously a performer. Have you spoken to someone, a psychologist, that's helped you recognize the behaviors you're talking about? Because a lot of people, I think, going through your journey and having the things, you know, you had the Bulldogs, you left the Bulldogs to run away from your problems to go to France. You had an experience in France, you left, you came back more rounded, but you've had these kind of different experiences. Did you reach out? Have you sat with someone? Why are you so able to kind of articulate what you're going through?
my faith, Islam, you know, for so long I put everything I had into being a sportsman, and that same, I guess, crazy drive, psychotic drive. All I did was, you know, like I said before, I feel like I'm a simplistic man, and I've just put that same energy into myself as a man. And when I found my faith, the beauty of Islam is it's given me the structure, daily structure, to fight the struggles that I've had. And obviously with that, I've delved into it. I've upskilled myself, just like with a lot of things I've done. You know, I went back to school, got a degree. You know, I dropped out of school at 13. So what I've simply done is put that same crazy attitude into myself as a man, you know, and it's really helped me thrive, I think, or just become better as a man, as a father, as a husband, you know, as a person. And I would be lying if I'm not saying that Islam is the biggest part in that equation.
How did you find Islam? Or did Islam find you? What is the journey that led you out of where you were?
Yeah, so at the time when I was going through all these struggles, partying a lot, getting into a lot of trouble, headline news, all of that, I met a few brothers, and then I started hanging out with them quite a bit, and just talking, really, you know. And then all of a sudden, seeing how these brothers were acting, you know, they would always be praying, always have God on their minds, God on their tongues, God in their actions, you know. And at that time, I could see how, and you know, they were just like anyone. At that time, I had I already had the narrative in my head, what I thought about Islam and what I thought about Muslims, but seeing it in my face and seeing how happy they were, I was like, well, naturally, I felt like, man, I'm getting drawn to this, you know. And it was a process, you know, 6-12 months, and moving away from that party boy lifestyle where it's all about myself to, you know, this space where these guys are more about you, or what do you need, or, you know, what does your family need, or come here, or you need this, you know, give you the shirt off your back. Just, it was really appealing to me at that time. And through that whole process, that's when I started learning about it. Got a couple of books, started reading a couple of books, upskilling myself. And then when I went to France, I took off to France. That's when I, took that step in that direction. And, being with that Tunisian family in the project, seeing how happy they were just through their daily actions really made an impact on me, and I felt like that's what I wanted in my life. I feel like everyone comes to a point in their life where they work out that, man, I just want to be happy, I just want to be happy, and that's what I wanted to be. I just wanted to be happy, and yes, I was in $1 million debt. I had this going on, that going on, but I just want to be happy, and that's what Islam gave me.
The extraordinary thing about your journey into Islam is that obviously it was pretty soon after, and we're talking 4, 5, 6 years after 9/11, and 9/11, pretty much inextricably linked in many people's eyes, certainly in the Western world, Islam with terrorism. And so you are going through that journey at a point that probably a lot of other people are heading in the other direction. And I just wonder how, nothing that you seem to have achieved has been easy, but how you equated your route to finding peace in Islam with what a lot of other people possibly were saying and judging you for.
Well, I know for a fact how my life's been played out. So I know the narrative about me out there can be crazy at sometimes and can be wrong at sometimes. I also know that this is how I feel. I can't sit here and tell you how you feel, Alex, or how Haskell feels, but I can tell you how I feel. And the beauty of what I was feeling, learning about this faith, it just felt so right. I've grown up. I grew up in New Zealand. I've always believed in God. At that time, in my struggles, it was only natural that that's where I was going to turn to. So it just felt like it came along at the right time. And, like I said, for me, the empowerment of the daily structure it gave me, it wasn't, to be a Muslim, it's a way of life. For example, praying, salah. You have to pray 5 times a day. So I get up before the sun rises, around lunchtime, around in the afternoon, just when the sun goes down, and then at night. That's 5 times a day. For me, praying, praying with my heart, or striving to pray with my heart, not just my limbs. Naturally, I feel so much more grateful for my kids. Naturally, I feel so much more grateful for the food that my wife cooks. Naturally, I look and I see the wallpaper on my wall, and I'm so grateful for that, because there was a time when I didn't have that, and I feel like the struggles that I've had, that I've gone through, I feel like this was the medicine I needed to fight my struggles in this society on a daily basis, on the daily. So it was an easy transition. It was an easy acceptance for me. So, and I guess throughout my journey, and I think everyone comes to a stage where they understand you're never going to please everyone. You just got to do what's good for you and what you feel is right for yourself, and that's what I've done.
Amazing.
I wondered, obviously you said the transition was easy. When you're adopting something that isn't like Islam, which is, I know a little bit about it, obviously, not masses, but obviously some of the behavioural transitions, like you said, the praying 5 times a day, some of the other things. Was there anything particularly difficult that you found that wasn't? Because sometimes, I know religion's a very different thing to kind of nutrition and stuff, but a lot of sports people, for example, when they are performing, they adopt these things, and sometimes what they're adopting does not contribute to them being the best version of themselves on the field. Some of it doesn't mutually exclusive. Like I know people who, for example, fasting for a long period of time when you're asked to perform. Were there things that you found very hard to adjust that made life very difficult for you, and sacrifices you had to make in respect of turning to Islam?
The partying lifestyle, Haskell. The partying lifestyle, the opposite sex. Because you just come so accustomed to it. I'm not going to lie. It's the truth. But the empowerment that I get from making better decisions, from lowering my gaze, I guess, after a massive when the boys want to go and do this, do that, look, I want to go home, I want to do my prayer, do my prayers, be thankful for what I've been blessed with. Just that type of stuff, the empowerment that I get waking up, it's an everlasting it's an everlasting high, and that's what I search for. So, yes, initially, that's what I would struggle with, Haskell. And I think, I just I know. Yeah. So that's initially what I really struggled with, but you know, Islam for me. When you read the book, what I'm most proud of, the, when you look at the book and you read the book, you if you don't read it, or if you read it, you'll understand that I'm a work in progress. I don't hide from that. I'm not going to sit there and say, "Look, I've done this, I've done that." I still have my struggles, but I'll fight tooth and nail to be better tomorrow or learn from my mistakes. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah.
That's what I hang my head on. And that's why I feel like when people say, "Oh, bro, you're a role model," or "You're this and that," like for me, that's just words. I feel like people put me in that space because they connect with the realness that I bring. The realness that I bring. That look, I'm striving every day to be my best, to be better than I was yesterday, but I still have those struggles.
Wait, what was your route into boxing then? And because I'm conscious we've done 40 odd minutes and we haven't actually even talked about you running around with a rugby ball, which I'd love to do towards the end. But I'm fascinated by the boxing and why, having achieved all you have in league and union, suddenly there's something else on the menu that you want to go and achieve. Why boxing?
Bro, when you got to pay $1 million, you got to jump in that ring if you have to.
Get in the ring.
That's how it came, man. It was through necessity. Me and Haskell one day will get in the ring. Little charity fight.
Yeah.
Over in England.
Well, listen, as long as I get paid, Sonny, because if you're going to beat me up, at least I want to get some money. Charity starts at home, pal. We haven't all got them big contracts. You know what I mean? I haven't got any wallpaper on my house either. So.
That's how it all started, boys. Was I was in $1 million debt. A big chunk of that I had to pay back to Chalk. When I went back to Australia, Chalk and Coda obviously knew there would be, I guess, big. It would pay off big time if I jumped in the ring because it would bring a lot of exposure to that space. And Chalk was having a fight, or just happened to be having a fight at that time, and they asked me to jump on so I could knock off some of that money that I owed. But for me, the same thing happened with that. With the hardship comes ease. It was such, and that's how I try and live my life now, through it, learning from experiences like this where it's so uncomfortable. I'm in a space where I'm like, man, I don't want to be here. But then you get through it and the growth automatically comes with it. You can see the growth. For example, writing this book, for example, working on TV for 12 months. Now I can sit here, although the process was at times like pulling out teeth, now I sit here and I see the growth. So that was the exact same with the boxing. Yes, it was through necessity at the start, but the growth was, I got a little bit better with each time, with each outing, with each little camp. So now, to the point now where, okay, I've done everything else in rugby and league. Why not give my whole heart, 12, 24 months to the boxing ring and see where I can get to. I shouldn't say I've given myself. I should say my wife's let me do it. So.
Good on her. Give us a comparison of the mental state that you find yourself in, walking out for an NRL Grand Final, walking out for a Rugby World Cup final, and walking to. I love the fact you call it the square office. I mean, where are your confidence levels for each three of those?
There's nothing quite like the square office. Haskell will probably be able to talk us through it a bit. That even through sparring, the pressure that comes with it, because if we're being honest, we've been pretty good at what we do all our lives when it comes to rugby or rugby league. Going into such a foreign space where you're not probably that great at it, it's really daunting, and for myself, it's no different. But, probably my biggest sporting achievement, one of the biggest highs that I've got was when I won the New Zealand Heavyweight Championship title. It was such a massive buzz because I knew where I came from, not even being able to skip, not even being able to throw a straight right properly, to actually winning that title was a massive achievement because it was so foreign to me. So the nerves compared to a Rugby World Cup final or NRL Grand Final, I would say, are a lot more in the boxing ring.
How did you find the kind of the emotional intensity? Because it's very, when you're playing rugby and you come to sort of a full contact training session or a game, you sort of know what's going to happen. you're part of a team, you have that intensity. But then it's very different when someone goes, right, you and me, we're going into the octagon or the ring or whatever, and we're trying to do damage to each other. And you and I might have no beef, no nothing. And obviously, it's that kind of emotional intensity. How did you find that? Because before my first sparring session, they said to me, listen, we're going to put you in with this guy. We just want to see what you're about, see if you've got something about you. It's going to be full on. What you do? And I didn't sleep the night before. And I was thinking on the way going, fucking hell, do I really need to be doing this? And then I went in there, and obviously then the competition and competitive spirit came out. But for someone like yourself, who's kind of obviously with Islam, which is actually very much a faith of kind of peace and very much a kind of you being quite centered, I then put you in the ring and go, right, Sonny, knock this bloke's head off. How did you find that? Did you sleep? Were you emotional? Were you be scared? What was your thoughts?
It's funny, man, like when you rock up and it's against a guy, and they rock up and they've got their whole entourage and they're warming up like it's a world title fight, and you're just like, I'm like you, man. I'm like, well, do I really need this? But I'm exactly like you too. Well, it's like, well, come on then, And I've found in sparring, especially lately, I must admit that I think the older I've gotten, the more I'm just and being more at peace with myself. I'm like, too friendly sometimes. So with sparring, I'll get in and it'll take a couple of big bombs from them to wake me up and think, wow, we're actually in a fight here, So that's just one of I wouldn't say struggles, but just one of the learnings I find from getting in the square office is that these guys, whoever I fight, I need to be real and understand that they want to knock me out, because they want that credit of knocking out me, So I have to take the humble hat off and the smiley face out and the empathetic heart out and just be like, well, we're in it here. It's kind of like just dog eat dog type of world, It's like going into when you're playing England at Twickenham or, when you're playing Australia over in Sydney, it's like that type of buzz where, you know that you can't take a backward step because that's showing weakness out on the field and your opposition will take advantage of that. So the only difference is, I shouldn't say the funny thing is, the scary thing is in the boxing ring, you don't have 14 other players to be like, well, I'm going to have an off day today. I want to, I'm not going to attack this breakdown, or I'm not going to, sprint up as hard as I can, or I'm not going to hide out of the picture and watch Haskell take that space and come in and smash him today. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that in the boxing ring or in the octagon because you get knocked out, So the mental warfare is a massive game, but for me, I take the lessons, or try to take the lessons that I've learned in my professional journey or professional sports journey into that space. And I feel like it's helped me a lot.
How would you get on against Tyson Fury?
Just to be able to spar against him or train alongside him would be a pleasure for me, He's a weapon, man. I'm a massive, avid boxer fan. But the thing I appreciate about the UK scene is that they've breathed much needed fire into the heavyweight division. You got AJ, Fury, the list just goes on over there, and there's some great up and comers over there, and it's just an awesome scene. So, God willing, in the next 24 months, I can get over there and hopefully put in some work with and see how it's done on that level,
Wow, that'd be quite a story, wouldn't it?
That'd be amazing.
I do want to ask you a bit about particularly. We've got a very big sort of union audience. I want to ask you about the great days of the All Blacks, but the two other things I just want to ask you about before that, as it's sort of you adopting the role that you have now, which is hugely passionate, hugely informative, and as a leader within your community. The two things that really stood out is your incredible message in the aftermath of the atrocity in Christchurch a few years ago, and just how difficult, if you could explain the story for those who don't know, but also how difficult a process that was for you, if you're happy to answer that.
Yeah, well, Friday prayers, a guy went into a mosque where unarmed people praying and just, shot the place up. I think he killed 50 people, 51. I remember I was at Friday prayer in Auckland, and I had to leave real early, or not leave early. I had to take off straight away because I had a chiropractor appointment anyway. So I didn't check my phone. Got there, had the session, and I remember picking up my phone, and there was, messages after message. Are you all right? Are you all right? The boys asking, and family. Because, Friday I would always go, and sometimes I would take my daughter with me. I'd pick her up from school and take her with me. And this bloke actually went and checked out the mosque that I've actually prayed at all of those places that he checked out. He checked out Auckland, he checked out Waikato, and then he checked out where he eventually committed the atrocities down in Christchurch. So that's how it all came about from my point of view, and it was just really tough to place to be in, because obviously being a Kiwi, a proud New Zealander, but also being a proud Muslim, and it was so tough that could actually happen in my country from a New Zealander. Well, actually worked out later that he was Australian, but throughout that whole process it was one of understanding that I had a role to play, and like I guess a lot of things that I've done in my life, I had to put myself out there, put the vulnerability out there, and although it was uncomfortable, the growth was in seeing how much goodness I could help. Being an All Black, but being a Muslim, being one of the most recognizable Muslims in Australasia, I understood that was my role, to play that type of mediator, and kind of connect the dots, if that makes sense. So yeah, it was a really tough time, but I was really proud of how the community came together, and the outcome of that. And it was tough, but there was some goodness that came out of it.
I've absolutely no doubt that you would have had a huge role to play in that healing process. The other thing I wanted to ask you about, particularly talking about Christchurch, was the earthquake, which, again, just a desperate scenario. But were you with the Crusaders at that point? Is that right? And I just would love to sort of get your memories of that unbelievable experience.
Yeah, I was there. I was down there, 2010 to 11. That was my year that I spent at the Crusaders when I was freshly back off a plane from France. I remember, I think the first one, it wasn't, no one, I don't think it affected anyone, but it was still a pretty big shake-up. I was just at home, and I remember my brother running into the room, and he was in his undies, and his stomach was going everywhere. And he's like, "Oh, so are you all right?" And I'm like, "Bro, are you all right?" You know what I mean? But then a few weeks later, the big one hit, and I was with two umanga marshal, and we were at the pools doing some recovery. We were just sitting in the hot pool, and I just remember the big glass windows. I thought they were going to break, they were going to smash, and just looking, all the older people that were doing the running aerobics class, but the waves were just, overtaking them. But it was surreal. It was really, it honestly felt like we were in a movie, the end of the world type of movies. But the scary thing was, my brother was down there at the time, and my sister, two had his wife and his two young kids, and they were in the city, and that's where a lot of the carnage had happened. So it was a pretty scary time. There's initial, half an hour trying to get people on the phone, seeing people crying and walking through the city, seeing people already covered, seeing bodies. It was pretty gruesome. People huddled around radios because all the phones went down. So it was a really crazy time. A lot of off the field, just so no structure at all. But the pleasing thing for myself and a lot of the Crusader boys was being able to bring, do what we do as sportsmen, and bring a little bit of joy to to the community. You know, we had an amazing year. Yes, we didn't play any home games that year, but we made the final against Quay Cooper's Reds that year. We fell one short, but there was so much good that we brought through to our community through sport, and it actually ended up being a really good year in that sense. But it was tough off the field for a lot of the boys.
Yeah, and I know you put a lot of money into the recovery cause, etc. But I just wonder, as a chapter of your life, you know, how proud you were, not just of your role, but of the team and the role that they played in supporting the community at that time.
Yeah, it was massive for me. I've taken a little bit of all of these experiences and, imprinted in my mind and just try and live my life with those understandings, that, there's so much more to sport, or sport can do so much more for the community or for people than the actual game itself. And being able to use my platform from boxing and help out in my little way, it was just along the principles that I had started to adopt, and giving you receive, that type of lifestyle. So that was no different. But yeah, it was a lot of hardship that year, and I'm just glad that from, I guess, a rugby point of view, we could play our part, do our part.
Gotcha.
Look, we couldn't talk to the great Sonny Bill Williams if we didn't talk about kind of your adventure with the All Blacks, winning a World Cup.
Winning two
World Cups. I was trying to talk him down a bit, man. We can't give him everything. He can't have everything. 2 World Cups. I mean, what was it like to come across and end up putting on that a mystical shirt? Because I know you were a leaguey, but obviously you must have been aware of the All Blacks. Anybody in the world who, even if they don't know anything about rugby, they know about the All Blacks.
Yeah, I had never been to a rugby game at all in my whole entire life. The closest I had come before joining the All Blacks was the year before in France, Tana. The boys played in Marseille, which is an hour and a half drive from Toulon, and Tana got us a couple of tickets. So, one of the boys got the tickets. We picked us all up. We drove down there. We got outside Marseille. He pulled out the envelope, but the envelope wasn't the tickets. It was a bill, electrical bill. So we stood there like idiots, listened to the haka from the outside, and hopped in the car and went home. But it was crazy. So, my first experience as an All Black was watching them play live the week before I made my debut over in Hong Kong when we lost against Australia. But I made my debut at one of my favorite places to play rugby, at Twickenham in England. And what an experience it was. I remember it so clearly. Like I kind of like went in the huddle. I'm looking across. Jerome Carnell's looking at me. I'm looking at him, and I'm thinking, man, he's looking at me, smiling, like, and I'm thinking, am I here? I'm looking, seeing Kevin Mialamu, Joe Rokoko. It was like a surreal experience. And I remember sitting there thinking, am I actually doing this? Is this actually happening? It's happening, And I remember off a line out, I think I got the ball, made half a break, and I popped that offload up to JK. He went through and he drew him past, hit Jose. Jose scored in the corner, and I was just like, man, I belong here. What a mad experience this is, because sold out stadium, and that's the beauty of rugby. And I grew to love rugby. I must admit at the start I didn't really understand rugby too much, from a point of why this game is so special. But I understood that. Well, I definitely felt like I belonged out there on the field, and that was a lot to do with Johnny helping me, giving me that confidence as a rugby player, but then also the feats that I was able to accomplish and be a part of from a rugby union point of view. But I grew to love rugby as the game, and what it brought and what it meant and what it represented, just through my experiences, off the field. I remember my first year back playing for Canterbury, Sammy Whitelock. We went down. We were playing Southland and it was for the Ranfurly Shield. And a lot of players don't get to play for the Ranfurly Shield. I don't know if you guys know the Ranfurly Shield. It's this
Oh, log of
prestigious
wood.
shield in New Zealand. The log of wood. I didn't even know what the log of wood was, So I'm sitting there and Sammy Whitelock saying, man, it's going to be a massive experience, Sonny. I'm thinking, man, it's just another game. We should pump this Southland team, We've got most of our teams, All Black players, you know what I'm trying to say? And he said to me, looked me straight in the eyes and he said, Sonny, this game that you're about to play is going to be like nothing you've experienced before. And I'm sitting there thinking, bro, I played rugby league grand finals. You can't tell me any different. You know what I mean? Sure enough, we go down there, and man, the atmosphere, just the crowd, the way Southland played. These players were like, some of them I've never even heard of before, but the intensity was another level. And we ended up winning the game by a try or so. But that was test-like footy, and it made me appreciate the log of wood. Made me appreciate it because it was so hard to get, and just little experiences like that. Bledisloe Cup 2012, I remember playing against Ireland. Brian O'Driscoll, who I knew, I didn't really know rugby growing up, but I knew who Brian O'Driscoll was. Being able to face him in a series was special. Just all of these little things throughout my journey, I guess, made me not just appreciate the game of rugby union, but grow to love it.
What were you like as a player? What were you like in the 5 minutes before, in the change rooms, running out, etc.? Did you do nerves? Were you always full of self-belief? Were you always just, this is a game, it's what I'm here to do? I'd love to know what your psychology was around those big games.
Man, I've always had self-esteem issues, I won't lie. But I think the special thing about that, it drove me to leave no stone unturned in my preparation. And then that essentially gave me the confidence needed to go out in big games and just play. Go out there and play. Go out there and play your style. You've done the work. Leave it all out there. And then, when you're sitting in the room and you're looking over and you're looking at, Ma'a, or you're looking at, JK, you're looking at Liam Messam, it gives you that confidence, like, bro, we can mix it. Do you know what I mean? So that's where I got my confidence from, was the preparation. I was always quiet, just stuck to my, everyone has their little structures or their little routines that you get through. But I think especially in that last World Cup, I remember one of the last games we played, sitting in there and I was looking around, watching Colsey, Kieran Reid, Baz, Rico, Ioane, just seeing it from a supporter's point of view. And it was such a mad experience because I was like, man, I'm going to miss this. I'm in the sanctum here, and this is what they're doing. This is how they, what I'm trying to say. So for me, I don't actually miss playing, but I miss that time in the sheds before and after, before a big game and after a good win.
I love listening to this because that's exactly my kind of thoughts in terms of why you play. You miss those boys, you miss the atmosphere, almost the preparation. I mean, everyone always talks about the end goal, but for me, it was always the journey. The stuff that made up what you were doing on the weekend. We've got a lot of, obviously, we said, rugby fans. I mean, if you were to think back, I know you talked about your debut, but if there's one particular moment that you smile really fondly of in your All Blacks career, one moment that kind of sticks out above anything else, whether it was a good win or something you did or saw or something that makes you smile.
Some of the things for me that showed what I was able to, when I'm not going off topic here, but I'm going to answer your question, but I'll answer it in a different way. The reason why I love Usain Bolt or love Bolt was not because of his feats he was able to accomplish. He was an unbelievable athlete. But I don't know if you guys noticed, before every big game or every big race, he'd turn around and he'd acknowledge the young kid that's doing the tracks, or, he always took the time out to turn and acknowledge that person. And for me, I always just felt like, man, that's the human touch. It's so nice. It's so beautiful. That's why I love sport. That's why I love, watching this guy, and for me, the things where I was able to do things like that really made me appreciate the I guess the privilege of putting on that black jersey, the privilege of playing NRL championship teams, was just being able to do those little things, with Charlie, with the medal, or I think after the South African game, going and consoling the boys and things like that. It was, for me, it was always what came with the game. But yeah, and then obviously winning World Rugby World Cups was special and all of that. But for me, that means more than the actual game.
One of the things that I'm interested in, obviously in New Zealand, from the rugby perspective, there was a lot of heartache around kind of the All Blacks and not winning a World Cup. They talk about the 2007, the transference, the concept of being, choosing good men, being good All Blacks. When you won that first World Cup, were you aware of kind of the relief? Because I don't imagine you had the same amount of pressure on you as everyone else did. Did you really notice that when you were in camp?
For me, in my journey, I just wanted to be a part of the best team. I wanted to be like I was in rugby league, known as one of the best players in the world. And to do that, I needed to play for the All Blacks. And to do that, I needed to be a part of a World Cup winning team. So that was my drive, for myself. But getting back in there, you could feel it. The boys, every World Cup that New Zealand's been a part of, since the win in '87, they've been favourites for. So to be a part of that was really special. But I feel like the evolvement for our game, you could see how it had evolved from that 211 to the 215 World Cup, where we moved away. I feel like we moved away from the traditional type of style of rugby that a lot of teams played, where we were more. We played that expressive type of style of footy, and I feel like that was the evolution of the All Blacks game, and to be a part of, that whole process from 11 to 15, it was really special, and just seeing the growth in our game and how we changed the style of play to, what was welcomed in playing, how we played. I remember in 210, 211, it felt like yes, there was that pressure of not winning the World Cup, but I felt like it suppressed a lot of the boys' natural instincts and natural flair. Whereas now, it's what we always talk about, especially when we talk about, the style that the All Blacks are playing. It's based off players just expressing themselves. And, a lot of that flair, a lot of that style comes from the Polynesian players, especially,
I've got a very personal question, actually, which is off the back of 2015. And you were front page news in the UK because of giving your medal away in the aftermath to Charlie Lyons. And it was, in many ways, it sort of seems that the culmination of the journey that you've been on, that it was about people and opportunities and giving, etc. I actually hosted the World Rugby Awards the following night, and I made World Rugby rummage in the store cupboard, and they found the very last medal, which I think Richie McCaw, we got Richie up to come and give it to you. And I remember saying to you, this is like the kid that keeps dropping his ice cream. This is your last one. And I would just love to know, did you keep it? Did it get on the plane and come home? Or did you find someone else who was a worthy beneficiary? Did you ever get a medal from 2015 and keep it?
I think my mom's got it.
I'm very pleased.
I think my mom's got it, or my sister.
Good.
Yeah. I think. But that whole. It's funny. Like for me, I don't have any jerseys left. I think I might have one. My wife might have one, but for me, it's okay. I understand people wanting to keep their memorabilia and whatnot, but for me, I'm like, I'd rather give it to someone that's going to appreciate it more or do more with it, because I'm not one to, okay, this is my rumpus room or whatever, where I've got 42 jerseys hang, but, I'm not saying that that's the wrong thing to do, but, it's just never been my style. So, and when it came to that gold medal, it was funny. Our whole motto for that World Cup was who dares wins. Because yes, we were the favourites, and to go back to back, we had to go out there and win it. Each game we had to go out there and win it. So you had to have that mindset: who dares wins. And walking around that field, Charlie running out there at that time, I just felt like that was a who there's wins moment. The bro had balls, you know? And I thought he was a Kiwi. I thought he was a little New Zealand. I thought he was only like 8 or 9. And the man turns out he's Pommy and he's 14, 15. But me giving the World Cup or the I guess the gold medal to him, I didn't really think anything of it. I just thought I wanted to make his day because I felt sorry for him, to be honest. And then I get in the sheds and I remember Shag coming out to me and he's like, "Did you give him your medal?" And I'm sitting there thinking, bro, does the medal actually have gold in it? You know? Because if it does, I've got to go and see it.
Paid out a bit of the million.
For me, that's the beauty of rugby. That's the beauty of rugby, is that it's more than a game. It's more than a game. Me and Charlie are close now. Still keep in contact with him. He's actually having a charity fight coming up. So, having been able to have that impact, he's lived his life. He's getting into that space with charity, and he's actually trying to do something with the medal where that's the foundation he wants to do or whatnot. But for me, the empowerment I get of being sitting there and thinking, man, I actually had a bit of influence on that kid's life. Like how amazing is that? That's that high that I chase, and it may sound selfish, but that's what I love, and that's why I feel like the game is special. That's why I love the game.
And I mentioned at the start that in the aftermath of that, I mean, the papers up here went bananas, and they were, he wins everything he plays in. He could be a model, etc., etc. Would he ever do Bond? And I remember asking you that on stage, and you said absolutely not. But the gig is now up for grabs again. I mean, could we have a double bro 7? Would you ever take it on now? You're a bit more of a media personality.
Bro, I got to check this hairline, man. All these kids are not doing me any favors.
You're looking good on it. Would you? I mean, with the media thing now, I mean, you were going to ask the question, weren't you?
I was just, I mean, I'm really interested, Sonny, because I obviously, you're one of the players. I played with lots of your teammates, got to know lots of guys. I lived in New Zealand. You're someone that I've always been fascinated by because, on the surface, as you said, you have everything. You've achieved everything. You're an incredible player. And obviously everyone always says you're a good guy. You talked a lot about your kind of self-esteem stuff in terms of not necessarily believing yourself or not wanting to talk yourself up. So you've written this book. You were a good player. Getting your mum to interview, getting your sister to interview, your family, people saying stuff about you, teammates. They're not going to make it up. So you obviously understand what a good guy you are. I wonder how now it sits with you, because you are a performer. Like, however much you want to stay humble, you are a performer. I've seen you on Sky, the new Sky adverts for Sky New Zealand when you were doing the coverage. You're a performer. Boxing's a performance, league's a performance, writing a book's a performance. How do you day to day deal with that? Because I kind of see you wanting to go like, have fun and be bold, and then be like, oh shit, I don't want to put my. And I think that's a big thing in New Zealand. A lot of people culturally, they call it tall poppy syndrome. Do you still fight that every day?
If you're trying to ask me, if you're trying to ask me, Haskell, if it's a front, it's not, bro. No. For me, I'm proud, so proud of who I of what I've been able to achieve, more so off the field, in the sense of who I am as a man. Because when I look in the mirror, I'm proud of that guy. There was a time when I wasn't, Haskell. You know what I mean? And for me, when you see me going like that or trying to be like that, that's me trying to push myself, trying to push the boundaries, because naturally that stuff doesn't come natural to me. Yeah, I like to have a laugh and that when I'm, with the boys, take the mickey out of each other. But on a public forum, man, it's not my specialty. But I know that in order for me to grow as a person, Haskell, in order for me to show that it is possible for us to be in this space, young Polynesian boys, young Māori boys, you can work on TV if you want. You can be the jokester, or you can, you can converse with individuals like yourself on this type of space, if you want to. For me to do that, I need to show that it's possible. But for me to be in the space, I definitely have to put my vulnerability hat on, and the growth comes from that. The evolution comes from that. But don't get it twisted. There's no, for me, there's no hidden agenda. I want to be happy. Yeah, and I know you're not, but what I'm trying to say is that you know, like this is me. I'm a work in progress. You know what I'm trying to say, brother? Like I'm a work in progress, and yeah, like I just want to. I want to be better, but I know in order to be better daily, I've got to, I guess, be selfless in a lot of things. You know, give my time to people or try and be a bit better. That type of buzz. You know what I'm trying to say?
Yeah, 100%. What I sort of meant is that you're very good at it. Like it wasn't. Well, I didn't mean it's a front. What I meant was it's like watching someone have an internal battle, not pretending to be something. What I meant is you're very good. You're a performer. What I would encourage you to do is let it go, because I know it's easier said than done. You have those self-esteem stuff, but I'm saying that for all the things you're doing, having personalities like yourself and putting yourself out there, you do it very well. And I think you should own it and be part of it. Because like I said, when I saw you signed up for the league coverage or whatever it was, and all the funny behind the scenes stuff where you were like putting accents on, pretending to be Australian, doing all that stuff. Like if I'd known you beforehand, I'd be like, oh, I think he's quite quiet. He probably wouldn't do that. It was very funny. It was very good. And I was more talking about your internal struggle, the fact that you want to fly, but you keep pulling yourself back down.
Please forgive me, Haskell. Please, brother. I'm sorry, bro. I know I was trying to, I thought you were asking a question like, because I know that's not what you were thinking, but on behalf of people, if they thought that it was a front, but please.
That's right.
Forgive me.
I just kick fuck out of you when we have a boxing fight.
Sonny, this has been a remarkable conversation. And I mean, the most extraordinary thing about it is we've barely touched on all the success and the accolades on the field. But a lot of people will know that, and the book will cover that for all that I hope go out and read it. What are you? Are you 36 now?
36, but at least I look younger than Haskell.
Oh my God. Yeah. Mate, you've beaten me in everything. There's nothing that you've got. I just hope you've got a small willy. I hope you've got a small willy, because you can't have everything. There's no way you can have everything. It's not some God has got to have given you something wrong somewhere. You must have like a weird back or something, or something's wrong with you. Smelly feet. You can't be perfect. That's what I think about every day anyway.
What is next for you? What are the next chapters? What would you like them to look like?
Man, just to be happy, you know, but also to grow as well, and you know, to train alongside Tyson Fury.
We'll get our people to talk to his people.
If this boxing gig goes pretty well, I'd love to think that I could get over there, and you know, because if you're doing well in the boxing scene, UK is the place to be. So I'd love to hopefully get over there and get some training and that done. So if I am, would love to catch up, boys.
Sounds fantastic. It feels like we've only just scratched the surface, but we have thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you very much. And well done to your Bambinos as well, who've behaved impeccably. I don't know how you've managed to shepherd 4 of them into the bath.
One of them was just sneaking up before.
Right. You've done it brilliantly. He's a perfect dad as well. It's just sort of got it all. No. Look after yourself. Thank you very much indeed. We hope the book flies.
I'm going to get up here. It's still recording. Hey, shut your mouth.
And that is the out. Sonny, thank you very much indeed. Look after yourself. We hope to catch up before too long. It's been a blast. Good on you. And there he goes, off to conquer new lands, new frontiers. Remarkable.
What a boy. Amazing. What I was trying to get with my point is there's a real dichotomy going on between him, or like a real kind of, you know, divergence in terms of him being, you know, obviously wanting to be a performer, I think, and everything he does being a performer, but also that kind of humble and self-esteem stuff. But I think to do what he's done is amazing. I think he is a real shining light. For a lot of things, especially, you know, Polynesian culture and Māori culture, and you know,
and Islam as well,
and Islam, and he's got so much more to do. And I think it was amazing listening to him about the story of his book and how a lot of people say nice things about you, especially if you're at his level, but you don't always necessarily believe them, and you're always left with your inner voice. But I think very much for him, hearing his family talk about himself, his friends, his teammates, I think must have been quite nice. But he's an exceptional person.
Do you know what I've found extraordinary about that is that there are so many people in life who work so hard to get to wherever they want to get to, and yet he is someone who's got so much talent. and was sort of found himself there, and then was sort of working out whether he wanted to do it. It's almost top down as opposed to bottom up.
Yes.
He was like, I'm standing in an All Black huddle, not entirely sure I like rugby, not necessarily sure I know exactly what's going on, but let's have a go. And I'm like, wow. I mean, that is otherworldly, and in terms of talent, natural ability.
I think exactly. But that is a way to describe otherworldly. That talent and ability, to do it across all those formats, all those games, to do it the way he did it, not just have a go, but to do it and become the best in each one of those things, and to obviously fight those demons. I think it's a great lesson. That he was trying to sort of suggest that on the surface, but they always use the analogy of a duck, don't they? This looks very serene on top of the water, but it's paddling like fuck underneath it to stay above water. And I think the point is, you never know how people in those situations are, but I think he's kind of gone through it all, and that's kind of quite nice. It makes him more of a richer character, because there's nothing worse than someone who's brilliant and then hasn't had a bit of hardship and hasn't experienced it or had hit rock bottom, because, as you said in your statement, it could have happened later on in retirement.
Yeah.
But I think he's on a good path, and I'm excited to see where he ends up. I mean, I'm interested to see with sparring Tyson Fury. He's a braver man than I am.
Right. I wouldn't bet against him, given the way everything else has gone.
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't either.
Never bet against him. What a chat, and what a man, and a great book, which we sort of flicked through, but I'm looking forward to getting into a bit more detail. So hopefully you'll get out and purchase that. Talking of a little nibble at all things rugby, shall we do this week's prize draw?
Yes, we should, Alex.
I have to say, Alan Bingle from last week, I think, is about the finest competition winner that certainly I've ever come across. His energy was hitting new heights at every point of our chat last week. It's time for this week's competition winner to come forth and see if they can do just as well. It is the penultimate prize draw. This week, we're offering up 2 Autumn Nations Cup tickets of your choosing, as well as some GBNR merch. And we're going to give the winner a call right now. 3, 2, 1. Dial the number. Adam Wilson, we're coming for you. Hello, Chaplain Farm. I was hoping to get hold of Adam Wilson at Chaplain Farm. Is that Adam?
You are in the right place, but the wrong person.
Wrong person. What's Adam doing right now?
I have no idea. Hiding somewhere, I would imagine.
Well, I hope we can find him, because my name is Alex Payne, and I'm calling from a podcast called The Good, the Bad, the Rugby, and we've got a prize to give Adam if he's around.
He's not at the moment, though.
Right. What's your name? Would you like 2 tickets to the Autumn Nations Cup?
Yeah, God, it is me. I'm only joking.
Oh, God.
Adam, I tell you what, you've been learning from the Bingolator. You've been learning from the Bingolator.
Who knew we'd have such a trickster and a gagster on the line? Adam, if you ever do that again, you're not getting the tickets.
Yeah, you've taken out the top of off.
I apologise.
Adam,
live in your shadow, mate.
This is a great pleasure to be talking to you. Tell us what you're doing this morning. Were you out and about on a tractor? What are you up to?
Not today at the moment. I've got the kids. It's on half term. The wife is in the gym, so we've just been to the park, and we're just going to get something to eat.
Good.
Very exciting.
We're going to cheer. We're going to improve your half term, because it sounds like, it needs a little stardust on top. We've got a couple of tickets for you for an Autumn Nations Cup game of your choice. Congratulations. We've got some GBNR merch coming your way as well. Tell us which game it is that you'd like to go to this November.
Oh my gosh. Jeez. Oh my God. He put me on the spot. Any of them, all of them.
No, you can only pick one of them. That's the wrong answer. Who do you support? Which is your country of choice? Are you England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland?
England.
Right.
No,
so
England.
You've got Tonga,
England.
Australia, or South Africa. Which game would you like to go to?
Oh, mate, I'd love to see us give it to the All Black, to South Africa, to be honest.
South Africa.
That'd be a great one.
You almost went through all of them, Adam. I went to see the All Black Australian, All Black South Africans.
Good. You're obviously a passionate rugby fan. I can tell you haven't quite got the dates and time. We will tee you up with a couple of tickets to go and watch England against South Africa, which is going to be a belter. The first time they've met, obviously, since the Rugby World Cup final. And a quick blast. Are you we always like finding out whether you're a regular of the Good, the Bad, and the Rugby, or you're a lucky dipper and you've just somehow managed to find yourself.
No, mate, regular.
Good
so
on you.
We got into me and the wife. We're both into the rugby, and we got into it over lockdown. And every week we've listened in. So yes, when you guys finished at the end of the season, just on a Wednesday what to listen to. So
good.
No, it's great you're back.
Can I ask you a question? Are you one of those people that enjoys all 3 of us, or are you one of these people that goes, this podcast would be so much better if Haskell shut up, or Tyndall went away, or if Alex wasn't so posh?
It's a nice balance, mate. I
Perfect.
do like the balance of all three of you. When Genji's on as well, I do like a bit of Genji.
He's the future. He's definitely the future.
We're trying to get him to do more, but he's quite
right.
busy captaining his club and starring for his country.
Yeah, I bet
Doesn't need to be mucking around in our petri dish. Listen, we'll keep it short and sweet because you've got half term to go and sort out. But hopefully, I think it's the 20th of November. England gets South Africa. We're going to be there. We'll give you a wave.
That'd be fantastic.
Grab yourself
Thank you.
couple of tickets. Come and have a great day and wear your new GBNR merch as part of the occasion.
Absolutely.
You know anything else?
Guys, thanks very much for the call. I appreciate it.
Not at all, Adam. Go forth and conquer. Lovely to chat.
Cheers, mate.
Look after yourself.
Take care. Cheers, mate. Thank you. Bye-bye.
It's becoming a bit of a theme, this, isn't it?
Oi, do you know what, though? There's one moment where I thought the whole thing was ruined because we hadn't got through to him. And I was about to go, listen, Chief, look, get on with it, find the right person, and we'll have to call someone else. And he went, it was only me.
Gags.
And I was like, I need to be more composed as a presenter.
I tell you what, though, if our competition wins, it's becoming like most competitions, people just pick up the phone and great, and then it's like that sort of stilted, interrupting conversation. We've got some lively listeners.
Oi, we need someone to come start bursting into song, accents, find out, all right, mate, everything's okay, and you find out they don't sound like that.
I tell you what, given that we're going up the hill, I think Bingle's still the top, but I think we'll give Adam second place, certainly better than the guy who came on first of all. We have got the big prize this weekend. So what I want is I want like a brass band playing when they pick up the phone, or like welcome us. It's
good noise, isn't it?
I'm getting hints of Wallace and Gromit.
Yes.
Do you remember the kids' program called Johnny Briggs?
Yes, yeah, I do. Oh, we have some fun, don't we?
There's like kids who can beatbox.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to enter a brass band miming competition.
I can do sax. Chloe always gets to do a trumpet, like in a bar, like.
That's a cornet.
Well, fine. I need to hear something in the background to join in with. No, not the beat. I mean, I need to hear a sax or a trumpet or a trombone. We've lost every last final listener.
I've got producer Shara saying, will you please just finish the show? Right, well done, Adam. You've won yourself a couple of tickets and some GBNR merch.
Yeah.
We have got some more amazing prizes up for grabs next week. Next Monday, we are announcing the runner-up who will get backstage access to backstage access to a pod recording and $1,000 in cash, as well as the big one, the grand prize, with no less than an all-exclusive trip to the Maldives and $3,000 in cash. Quite like that.
I like that.
You think I get a bit more VO?
Yes.
Proceeds raised from this competition are going to Cure Parkinson and Restart, the RPA's charity of choice. They are two charities very close to our hearts for reasons I think we've explained in the past. The trip to the Maldives is up for grabs next week. If you haven't got your tickets, now is the time to get involved. A quick thank you to Be Away, for a very Island Resort and Spa, and the Rugby Wine Club for supplying the prizes. Tins is their ambassador and introduces them everywhere he goes as the Rugby Wine Club, which isn't necessarily what they're looking for, but it's what they get when they work with Mike Tyndall. Tickets, details, 5 tickets for a £5, 15 for a £10, 40 for 20 quid, 150 tickets for £50. Head to goodbadrugby.com/prize draw to purchase your tickets. Get involved. Quite like it's quite a bit of Johnny Vaughan coming through.
Ridian.
Live and exclusive. Tidy this up, Shara. I don't know where we're going. That's the competition for next week. I'm looking forward to giving that away, actually. If you're the winner, come with whatever it is you've got to make it a spectacular pod interview. That's the end of this week's show. As always, like when fireworks, they go and they're big, and then you just get a couple that fly off into the distance and they don't quite give you what it is you're looking for.
Yeah.
That's how we're finishing this week's show.
Bit like you in the bedroom, I imagine. A lot of apologising, a lot of kerfuffle, and a few tears and some ending disappointment, and a few apologies.
Right.
That's the end of GBR. Thanks. Tune in next week. This was brought to you by, in conjunction with Matt Norris, who did a few things, and our lovely producer, Shira. Cheers. Subscribe and leave some feedback.
Actually, that is a good point. Can we actually, if you do like what we do, we'd love you to click a subscribe button here or there.
Yeah, and leave some feedback, you miserable pit. And if you don't like us, don't leave feedback. I don't care.
Right. I'm gonna do that with a nicer way to finish, which is the show is pulled together by producer Queen Shara Kilgallen and world-class fixer Matt Chuck Norris. We are the good, the bad, and the rugby, and this is a Folding Pocket production. See you next week. Look after yourselves in the meantime. Bye-bye.